Welcome back to Closing Conversation, the show for founders, leaders, and sellers who win together. I'm your host, Max Notice. Today, Erik Reynolds is back for part 2. If you listened to part 1, you know that our original podcast intro turned into a full episode. So this is the actual recording we planned to do. And of course, we went somewhere completely different. We start with grief, hockey, and the strange ways that loss show up when you're trying to get back to normal. And then we get into sales, AI, LinkedIn, social media, personal branding, video games, and why real relationships still beat automated outreach. Erik has worked across games, music, entertainment, PR, business development, and creative strategy. But what makes this conversation work is not just his background, it's his willingness to say the real thing. Let's get into it.
That was the sweetest thing and probably the most appropriate thing anyone can say to you is, tell me about it. Like keeping that memory alive, and immediately it transitions you from loss to storytelling.
Yeah, and you want to share about the person.
It's part of everyone's healing process is the moment they can tell stories about your loved ones that are no longer with us without losing it is the moment that you have successfully, healthfully moved on. By the way, I'm Erik Reynolds and I am not a doctor.
I think we see eye to eye on this. So you got a perspective. And I'll tell you, I think this even like we're like live record. I couldn't believe our last conversation. And like normally these interactions, you have to understand, go very differently. Like you and I have like a bit of a unique thing that we've stumbled into here. But that layer about how when you're going through something, your communication center of your brain is just like a little fried. And I've noticed, like, for example, this week with my grandfather's passing, my wife and I, and we're normally so cohesive. I've been short with her and I just don't have the patience for, even as I'm in the locker room, I almost thought about it. It's like, I feel like it's like I have a migraine and no one else does. So like everything is just a little bit more effort, a little bit more of a pain in the ass. Like I don't feel like joking. Like I've got a migraine going on and it's really like it's depression.
It is. You're exactly right. And it's normal, right? Like my girlfriend lost both of her parents at a young age, like in her early 20s or something like that. And she's like, look, all this stuff that you're going to feel is normal. I'm like, you can't tell me how to feel. But then I'm immediately short with her, frustrated, and we are awesome communicators. Like there's nothing we can't talk about. There's no problem that we can't just face without pointing blame. And she's like, this is grief. And I'm like, you're right. And I'm so blessed that I had someone in my life who really looked into the face of that demon called grief by losing both your parents within a year. She went through it and came out the other side. And she is an incredible touchstone to like, hey, am I losing my patience because I'm losing my patience, or am I taking it out on someone right now?
And well, I'll even say, you made an interesting point, like as consultants, salespeople, whatever the fuck, like you're always trying to keep positive and be the beacon of whatever's happening. It's your role. And, as a father, as a male, like I think we put a lot of these things extra onto us. And I have found through a lot of my own grieving and other parts, in my life and therapy, learning the skill to be vulnerable. And it's not an easy one and it's not inherent, but like, I'll give you an example. When I got divorced 10 years ago, I remember saying to my therapist, oh my God, I'm divorced. How will I ever be like relatable? And like, lo and behold, that made me the most relatable person in the whole world. Like, oh my God, like immediately I'm talking to people, I mentioned that and they're like, no shit. And 50% of the population's divorced. Like, oh my God. So, and then I found, even similarly, when you're on like a sales call, you'll go on and you're trying to, hey, how are you? And you're putting on like a Boy Scout and it makes you phony. And clients read that and they think, oh, fuck this guy. You're trying to butter me up to like you. And you don't even know if you don't even know what I'm looking for, but you're still doing this. And when you're on a call, like whether, when you have the strength to say like, how you doing? Honestly, I'm not doing great today. It levels you in their perspective of you. And similarly, when you can get them to talk about something that's difficult, that's when it clicks. That's when it happens. That's when you both realize, oh yeah, we're like, this is real, as opposed to we can yes each other to fucking death all day.
Oh, like my patience for on the phone sales pitch and asking only yes oriented questions. I'm like, pal, I know the script. Don't sell me. Tell me how you're going to solve my problem directly. And I literally stop people. I'm like, you're wasting my time and you're wasting your time.
Have the balls to tell me what my problem is.
Yeah, don't tell me you're going to generate 100 new leads, hot leads for me in a week when you don't ask me about my business or know what I do. Those kind of LinkedIn pitches I just set on fire. And sometimes I reply back, so what is it you think I do? Because sometimes even I don't know. You know, one day I'm a business development salesperson, deal maker, partnerships maker. The next day I'm doing publicity for bands and technology companies and celebrities and, you know, other corporations. Then the next day I'm executive producing content, whether it's short form, long form, video games, or what have you. So I'm like, what kind of leads are you going to generate for me? Because I have target lists. I have leads, but it's a matter of, like, and you said it perfectly, being authentic and not selling is the best way to sell.
This is what I notice with a lot of salespeople. They're afraid to say something that might piss off their prospect. They don't want to bother them. So, like, for example, someone's trying to sell you leads. You know, if you're the salesperson and you're saying, so what do you do right now, Eric? Well, I go on podcasts and I've got a whole list of people. Yeah, but Eric, do you reach out to them? No. Eric, you're never going to get another client if you don't reach out to these people. If you don't have the balls to say that to me, how can I possibly trust that you can fix that problem?
One of my very best friends gave me a quote that even at my age, I was like, wow, I learned something new. He said, Eric, life's a contact sport. And I'm like, he's right. I can't just live on my reputation, which is great. Yeah. I can't just attract by where I've worked previously. I can't just close remotely all the time or just through an email, like a passive attempt to close. I have to get on the phone, get on a VidCon, or fly to someone and say, hi, I'm Eric. Here's the solution I was pitching you. Let's grab coffee. Or here's the thing I'd love to do with you. And that contact, you know, whether it's physical or direct, like we're actually having a real conversation, is something a lot of people forget, especially in the era of AI agents, where I have a client that's like, I'm going to set up an AI agent, you know, BD drip list for you that's going to sit. And I'm like, no, yeah, please don't. So, you know, people might reply. It doesn't mean it won't work. What it means is that you don't know anything about them and you don't know about their business. And you're telling an AI agent that target me, music supervisors at major television companies, because I'm going to sell them sync licensing. And maybe you can use that for like hi, I'm Erik Reynolds. This is what I do. I'd love to talk to you someday. Maybe you can use it for like an opening and automate that. I'm not above that. But the moment that, especially in my business where people are asking me to sell to friends, people I have 20 plus years of relationships with, I'm like, I'm not putting someone who, you know, I've seen literally grow up, because he or she has seen me literally grow up in this business, on any kind of automated campaign. I'm going to not email them probably. I'm probably going to call them or text them or whatever, you know, and the difference between a sales lead and a true relationship is often lost on the client, especially when they've experienced some success in your sector doing those tactics. And I'm like, look, I am not against automation. I'm not an old dog who doesn't want to learn a new trick. I am deep into AI automation and models and really like, how can I leverage it for a lot of different purposes? But when it comes to selling to people, you know, you can't be impersonal. It's tantamount to just hitting send a birthday message on Facebook, right? Instead of actually sending them a message that is like, hey, buddy, remember those days, such and such, yada, yada. It's literally, that's the analogy. It's like impersonal, robot driven. Everybody knows those three emojis are coming from Facebook, not you.
Wait, yeah, I was going to say, or you see the guy who's posting every day with the three emojis and you're like, oh, I didn't know that you got into real estate. Well, you know, I think that AI has, and this is nothing new in the spectrum of sales, right? Like it used to be the phone call that you get around dinner time, and then everyone kind of got onto that, you know, the telemarketer. And then they hopped into email, and then email got shitty. So then they're hopping into LinkedIn. And now LinkedIn's like what email was, and it's like 90% shitty and 10% real. But it's where it's becoming more valuable, that person to person. And like, I'll give you this one. I know a guy who's starting a company where it's like an AI engine to recommend different tech softwares. And it's because a lot of people, like, I don't want to meet with 10 different salespeople and have to make up my mind. They're all spewing shit at me. I want to ask a friend who they've used. And like, I see more and more brokers today of these different things, because I'd rather ask someone who knows 5 different companies in this realm what I should use, because they're getting a kickback from any one of them. They're impartial. So same deal. And I'll tell you, there was another guy, Dave Seafry. We had him on the show. He started a company called Warm Start, I believe. And the whole idea was it would look into your inbox and say, these are people you probably forgot you worked with a couple of years ago. You should hit them up. And he could either just recommend them for you or write the message. And I'm like, you know what? Depending on the relationship, I could have it write the message. And like, if I don't really remember the guy, fine. But oh man, that person, we actually went on like an awesome trip, and we had a great time and a real heart to heart on that. You know, I do wonder how they probably, the way you feel about someone, they probably feel about you. And there was some rule he said, I forget what it is, but like how you can only really keep 100 contacts in your mind at a given time.
Yeah, it's the same rule as in starting a business. And I forget what it's called, but it's basically the CEO can only know the first 100 workers by name. And that's when it becomes like an impersonal company. And, you know, you can no longer say, well, who treats you like family? You don't know my name, Bob. By the way, I just wrote that down. That's a really interesting piece of software. Warm Start.
Dave Seafry, really nice guy, super bright guy. Warmstart.ai.
That is something interesting where I can jump into Gemini right now and Google and probably ask it the same question, but depending on how they've trained their model, as far as like looking for sentiment around affinity, you know, asks that never got answered, you know, I bet you they've worked their model out pretty well.
I remember I tried it out at the time. They were on Gmail only, and they were looking to move over to Outlook. But from what I saw, it was really cool.
Yeah, I am absolutely a product of my ADHD, actually, which is I have an inbox that's like 200,000 emails or something like that. I can't delete anything. Nothing is truly organized. Like, I know with automated folders and everything, I could do that, but I'm so afraid that I'm going to miss the trail.
I'm the same way. And then I've got my fucking tabs are like a city. Once every couple of days, I'm like, just delete, just get at it, just click X. You're going to be back in the same. When I get a LinkedIn message, I hear 15 things because I have LinkedIn open on 15 different tabs, like all around my fucking.
And 15 different devices, and now you're getting dinged no matter where you are.
And it's some asshole who never saw anything about my company, but they're trying to sell me something.
That's it. And what's really funny is I saw that Google is now offering you the ability to get text notifications when you get an email. And I'm like, which Google engineer is a real asshole? Because that is a terrible idea.
You're like coming up on wolf.com from The Office.
That's exactly what it is. It's
Don't do that to me.
18 different things being, and then get a text going, hey, did you know that you have 18 different things? And they're all saying the same thing. And it's part of a 5-step drip campaign. And I didn't ask for any of it. But, all this being said, like the cynicism, right? The optimism is, I love it when someone goes, hey, I saw your post legitimately, not their AI. And I've been thinking about this too. Do you want to talk about it? Like, I'm not selling anything. I just want to know if what you're experiencing is something that we're working on. And that's where I'm like, especially when they don't say, do you have 15 minutes? Because it's never 15 minutes. Come on, man. That's the oldest trick in the book. When they just say, hey, really interesting problem. I think I might have a solution. Check out our website. But if you just want to talk about, I don't know, creating a MCP so you can connect two different things, that's what we do. And maybe we can help. Like subject matter expertise magically showing up in my inbox. That's thoughtful. I love it.
Well, it's obvious when someone has or hasn't, because there's a degree of like, I'm trying to be a little generic so I don't have to, or they'll mention one thing we all know that. We all did that. But you know what? I'll tell you one that I've been finding that really feels good. I was never a social media poster, like just not my thing. I follow, I'm on, I'm not putting any, my wife takes pictures, posts them. Great. Like our family is documented. Excellent. But it was only until I started my company where it was like, I feel like I have to. Like, I feel like it's a free marketing channel that I never did. And I talked to someone who helped me with marketing and I said, like, what do I even post? And the truth is, I've been managing and leading and coaching salespeople for a long time. I have so much to say, but what's social media to, you overthink it. And he says, well, write down 10 or 20 like core beliefs that you have about sales, about like core beliefs that no matter what, like you believe them so hard. And then write, you have your content, write something about that. And if you could put a picture with you smiling at the camera, that's like 90% of it and it'll go well. And I started doing that and I found it's so easy because I'll watch a TV show and I have a thought, just jot it down. I'm going through my day and I notice like, man, salespeople are really afraid to say the hard thing, throw it out there. Like, great. And I was at a wedding recently and a friend of mine, we were in a fraternity in college together. I haven't seen him in a while, comes up and says, by the way, I see what you've been posting and I really like it. And I think my company actually has some problems that you might be able to help with. And it's like, that's why you do it. That's exactly it.
Everybody knows, depending on the channel, right? Because the channel defines the content, but everybody knows that we are trying to project our best selves or our best opportunities so that we can, keep our businesses going and things like that, and or our individuality. Like if you look at my Instagram, it's supporting clients while also, I co-own a video game studio. It's one of the 900 things I do called Affirmation Studios. It is majority Black owned. We are building with African developers and US developers, and we're making games from an Afrocentric perspective. They don't expect to see content like that from me. So when I do post it to Instagram, people stop and they take notice and they're like, whoa, and it expands my audience. And I'm like, yeah, I'm more than just this one thing. But then also they see the guy that tries to see live music once a week at least, loves supporting emerging artists and loves working with the right labels to do cool things too. Cause I'm working with Sony right now on a game for one of their top hip hop artists. And that's a totally separate part of my business, which is I create stuff as solutions to problems, So if you need a marketing channel to reach Gen Z, Gen Alpha, millennials, video games are the way to do it. So let me make you a cool video game instead of just putting your brand onto something silly in Roblox, like a lot of agencies do. And when it comes together, it's really special. But usually it's someone who asks for a lot of money up front, which always breaks it. And I'm like, no, this is how much things cost. And we're going to do it by milestone. It's going to all work out. But I use Instagram to demonstrate visual media, right? I don't really use X. I kind of lurk on X to see, it's basically a lot of automated AI, ebook selling at this stage. X has really lost its audience. And I don't think it's necessarily only their fault. It is a lot of their fault, but I think social media is in decline. I don't know that for a stat. Like I feel for maybe my generation and millennials below that social media is less important as we age, right? And for the generation that we think is so self-obsessed with social media, it's because they grew up on brand. Imagine that. Imagine Erik Reynolds, the brand at 17, and half of my class is on Insta, and I'm in, the basement playing Dungeons and Dragons with my friends, or I just beat something in Contra, and I'm trying to post content about that, and I'm trying to develop my sense of humor because I grew up on old SNL and all this stuff. I'm going to say the wrong thing, I'm going to do the wrong thing, and I'm going to get like pseudo canceled. Imagine growing up in that pressure cooker of developing your brand when you're not a brand. You're just a person who is learning, growing, screwing up, learning from that. Like we're meant to make mistakes. We're meant to have awkward, conversations and interactions and be able to learn from them and grow from them. And I literally feel sorry for that generation of kids. But at the same time, they are, and this is a sweeping generalization, but at the same time, they're a lot more comfortable with themselves than I have ever been, right? Like, I'm okay on camera now, no, I'm not putting out, I'm good. because I finally accepted my true self, my authentic weirdness, my, you know, my true magic, not magic, but like my superpowers. I know my superpowers, right? And I think when you're in your 30s, you're kind of trying to develop them. Well, I got taught them very early, like, here, Eric, you're good at this, this, and this, and this. But I never accepted it because I had that, you have to go to therapy, like you said, and work through, oh, why am I deeply insecure? Everybody tells me I'm great at this stuff. I just have to be willing to fail with it, because even though you can be talented and be great, you're going to put up some bricks sometimes. And I think that generation, I should say, is not at all concerned about putting up bricks on social media. And that, what a powerful workforce they could be. Let me make one quick point, because I promise I had a point to this, which is going to make them great entrepreneurs. Like, this is the generation that doesn't think that Coca-Cola is their dream job, or doesn't think that working in movies is their dream job. They're like, working in the Erik Reynolds business is my dream job. And I'm like, that's more than a paper route, man. That is. So for any service related industries that are always trying to get in the biggest rooms possible, multinational big rooms, they should also look hyper local, because depending on what you can offer, what you can do, there's an 18 to 30-year-old that has 1.5 million followers that doesn't know how to transition a brand into a product.
It's very interesting. Here's where my head was going. One, it's very hard to be yourself. It takes a long time to be comfortable, because all those things that you're good at, people say you're good at, you may even hate that you're good at some of those things. You feel insecure about some of those things. You try to be something else to balance whatever you've been told throughout your life. And it takes, for me at least, it took a lot of, therapy and life experience, et cetera, to, this is who I am. That's it. Like, there's a great song by this woman, Odetta, and the song's called Hit or Miss. And it's, ain't nobody just like this. I gotta be me, baby. Hit or miss. And I put that quote up in a room in my house. And I think, one, being comfortable being yourself is really hard. It's hard to be yourself. It's why when people get into a sales call, they immediately become some caricature of themselves, because they're insecure about who they are. All right, now, when you move on to the social media side, from our generation, yeah, it is a bit of a trip, because like even myself, I'm posting, what do I think about sales? I'll post stuff from hobbies like hockey, or me playing the piano, or a picture of me with my kids, to just show like I'm a person, and these are the things that I like to do and I get excited about. But I'm always afraid to go that extra step, because I feel like that's what could get me in trouble. What if I make a joke and they don't know I'm kidding? Then I'm canceled, and that's a problem.
And this is what I recommend to a lot of folks like us, is don't mix your content. Nobody knows my brand on Insta, because I've been mixing my content since Insta came out. When I was a PR person and not allowed to talk about games because someone from another company would call me and go, dude, why are you hating on my game? Like, that's for journalists to do. Let's stick together, like that's happened to me, by the way. Not mixing your content is like the number one lesson.
What do you mean? What do you mean by not mixing your content?
So Erik Reynolds has an Instagram, BuzzSpinner. It is literally a buffet of content about all the things I do. Nobody knows what to make of that. They don't know what I do. But if I had Erik Reynolds game developer as a channel, and I only pushed the games that I create, make, ideate, help others create, finance, then they know exactly what I do. And this is the lesson that I'm learning. So I think, like, a company that has more than one product, a consultant, an individual, or a small business person or a small company should have more than one social accounts that can reference each other, but are much more specific to what that account is meant to achieve, because the algorithm is going to treat it differently. The algorithm doesn't know what the heck to send me.
Yeah, like, I'm thinking from my own perspective. I post, it's 90% sales, and then just, again, like me with my kids, me playing the piano. And I feel like it's enough on one end that you know what I'm doing. And if you're seeing one of those, it's not throwing off the scent too hard. Like, me walking with my kids down, pushing them on the stroller, down our river here. I don't think it's like LinkedIn would ever think like, oh, I'm offering babysitting services, but it shows a little color. Like the picture of my kids, those tend to get the most likes, of anything. Like what you're saying, even your previous point, here I am, here we are trying to find our voice and find that brand Whereas the generation that's coming up here, this has been like you learn Spanish or French in school. This is something that they've learned. This is a language that they've been on. And maybe it like really even fucked them up growing up where they post something and then the whole world rains down on them for making a bad joke. Like that could really fuck you up.
And by the way, the whole world is their grade in school, right? That's their whole world. That's what I mean.
Like they're coming out of school unbelievably fluent and refined in how to handle. Like I'll tell you this, I have an assistant and she's got to be in her 20s. And, you know, I'll say to her, I want you to take more on, you know, posting on the podcast and posting from like the company page. And I trust her to do that. Why? Because she's been doing this forever. And I always tell her, like, if you have an idea or anything we should do differently, like, I'm totally open. And like she mentioned even to me once, oh, I have like a TikTok page just for fun. And I'm thinking, I would never have something like this just for fun. Like this is you speaking Spanish or French.
And what's interesting is difference in generations on what the quality bar should be. The attention span generation, the, you know, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, I don't know what Gen Next is. They do not care about quality. What they care about is like the hook, the visual, and whether or not it relates to them or makes them laugh. They don't care. Whereas some of my clients are like, no, we need to produce this video over the course of 30 days and it's going to cost 50 grand. I'm like, on an Instagram video or on a YouTube video, that's all we're going to use it is we're going to cut it to, you know, reels or shorts or, you know, TikTok. Like a podcast like this, I tell my clients, like, honestly, don't think about it. Just throw it up into Opus Clip and let it clip. It might catch something in the middle of a sentence, but it doesn't matter. It's about setting hooks, having visual dynamics, and getting content out there regularly. And if subtitles are wrong, who cares? No one cares. It honestly, no one who's just stopping that reel in that second is going to get so brand confused that they want or do not want to follow you. And so I've got clients that are at the peak of fame. They are world recognized, you know, famous people. And they're like, no, we overproduce everything. And I'm like, this is why you're stuck at, you know, 7 million followers. And this random person who's 22 has 13.5.
So interesting. You know, because I'll tell you, even like I'll listen to my clips back, watch them back. Oh, they made a typo in this. But then when I'm looking through Instagram and the thing gets picked up wrong, I don't really care. So why am I holding myself differently, you know, accountable? If it's good, it's good.
Obviously, you want to project yourself well, you know, but like social media is designed to cut corners now. It truly is. It's truly an automated content feed that we're all going to get real tired of real soon. But use it while you can, because it can drive top of the funnel, middle of the funnel engagement. And you can sell within social too.
Because you'd also said before, broad sweep, you think that social is going to be on the decline or is on the decline. Do you think it's because of the repetitive nature of the content that we're seeing?
Yes, and because it'll get to a point where it's so automated that it's like watching only infomercials. Like even though, Max, you may be on my friends list, I may never see your content because I follow too many other accounts and all I'm seeing is what the algorithm is pushing because those automated accounts are sending me 3 posts a day, if not more.
I also wonder, and this is in a different lane, but I've thought about this with my kids. Like it's when you're bored, you're flipping through, right? It's like bad habit. It's like smoking, and how there was a generation that smoked in front of their kids and smoked in the house. And then those kids grew up and less of those kids smoked. And then all of a sudden they're putting pictures of like fucked up lungs and saying like the UK's banning kids. I think like there are people under 18 now, like moving upwards from buying cigarettes. They're trying to like eliminate it entirely, and how like Gen Z, they're killing the alcohol industry. They see it's a bad, et cetera. And I wonder if it gets to a point, they've done all these studies already and how social media is really bad for kids and you shouldn't, your kids shouldn't have an Instagram account before they're like 15 to 18 or something like that. If they grow up seeing their parents on their phones all the time and hear these reports of it's really bad, that they start to kind of detest it and then just becomes one of those things.
See, this is where I fall into, and I hate to use this term because people misuse it politically all the time. I tend to fall into more of a libertarian view on a lot of this stuff, right? So it's not up for the government to regulate everything under the sun. It's up to parent. And it's up for platforms to maintain platform, let's call it platform standards, their TOS, because they want to attract a customer, not because they want to be the parent when the parent is not around. And see, that's the issue with a lot of things, especially in games, right? I'll use games that specifically. Like games are often the babysitter. And it's not wrong. Like, heck, man, a kid is learning critical thinking skills, they're learning perseverance, they're learning risk reward, you actually learn a lot by playing games. And it may just look like shooting aliens on a screen, but I'll tell you, it is interactive storytelling that is activating their decision-making ability and their level of communication. You listen to a bunch of kids play Fortnite on a team, and it's like, holy smoke, these kids should be out using the same communication in soccer or football, but they're not, because it's rewarded and it's a direct reward, right? But the moment that, like, you have the government try to intercede on something it doesn't understand, which is the entire monetization business of the video game world, the entire moderation side of the video game world. We've been self-regulated for 20, 30 years already, maybe longer, and we do it really well. But parents and caregivers like really just need to put their foot down and set up those boundaries and really inform their kids about the dangers of the real world. Hey, if you have someone pop into your friend's lobby in Fortnite that you don't know, you're not allowed to talk to them. You kick them out immediately. And same thing goes for Roblox and all those other places. Like, it's a little unfair, the amount of flack that Roblox has gotten, but there's certain like moderation tools that they're implementing, which are great. So getting flack is good. Having the government demand flack and then like try to regulate it and charge. And I think it's people trying to tell people in other industries how to run their industry who had never lived a day of life in the industry or never sold to their customer. And I don't think that you can regulate moral choices.
I agree with you. And what you're making me think of is, I think like my parents, for whatever reason, they always like hated video games. So they thought it was stupid. And why? Bias, like no real actual valid reason. And then I remember when Grand Theft Auto was coming out, however many years ago, and they said, oh, well, it's violent. And it is like, there are all these like news stories, like these, like, oh, is it making kids violent? And then they did studies years down the line, and just kids who play Grand Theft Auto are actually much less violent than others. If anything, like it's an outlet, or they realize the difference between, a game and real life better than maybe other kids do. And it was completely the contrary. Nonetheless, there was still this aggressive bias from, a generation that had more experience and power and money raining down on a new medium.
This same thing happened with the satanic panic over rock and roll in the 70s. Like, let's blame other things and other people for our problems. Our lack of mental health treatment, our lack of medical treatment, our lack of, parental responsibility, our lack of community responsibility, our lack of community policing, our lack of this. Like, no, let's blame it on a comic book, or called Dungeons and Dragons, which actually teaches like kids, like imaginative, how to use their imagination, how to, create a character and tell a story, and all the like beautiful things that you can do with it, was thought to be the work of the devil. And to this day, and I respect people's, religious faiths, like evangelicals still think it's the work of the devil. Okay. But for non-evangelicals, for whatever your belief system is, Dungeons and Dragons has taught more kids how to write and conceive of stories than public education.
I believe that. It's almost like I feel like the movie industry, where like, how many movies with, oh, this is the devil. And it's like, one, you're the one who let your kid go to that movie. Like movies, they have a rating system. I guess they're supposed to check an ID or something if you're 13, whatever the fuck. But you can produce whatever, and it's out there, and that's cool. And then, let us give you an idea of like really who the target audience here is, but it's up to you a kid can sneak into an older movie. You can rent that movie and there's no problem. Like it's really it's self-regulated.
A kid can see anything that they want, unless a parent has actively set up parental controls across their entire home network. And a lot of parents just don't know how to do that or don't want to do that. But, I think this whole point was about ownership, right? And authenticity and things like this. Like, I think businesses and people need to be authentic, need to actually have a human voice and say, hey, we built this platform just to be a place where kids can play games and kids can make games. That's Roblox. Like, literally, it was founded as a educational physics demo. Throw a block against a bunch of other blocks, watch it fall down. No one liked that. But the moment that people started organically, and the company Roblox started building actual game loops, then it just took off. And any society, it's going to attract bad people. Internet communities, gaming communities, music fandoms, anywhere where people congregate is a community. You have to think of it as where I'm at, Charleston. Well, there's bad people in Charleston. There's really nice people in Charleston. So let's set up some moderation tools to keep the real bad people away or identify them quickly. But that's about all we can do. You know, Columbine was blamed on Doom. The really interesting thing about that is that Doom has sold bajillions of units all around the world, and every one of those other countries do not have a school shooting rate that we do. So let's talk about mental health, you know, because obviously we're too scared to talk about gun control. So let's talk about mental health. Why don't we make that the free option for Medicaid to give to everybody? You might reduce violence and other criminal activity by a massive degree if people just had other people from their communities who are trusted and trained to talk to. And that used to be your pastor, you know, your priest, your rabbi, whatever. And that's less so.
So believe it or not, we're running up on time, but you know, this is one of the reasons I love this podcast. Well, first off, because you and I, God knows where the fuck our conversation is going to go anytime, but we've got like a heart thing here.
Erik Reynolds is anti-regulation, no creativity.
Erik Reynolds. We'll give it like a real grabby headline. But you know, I'll tell you, we've never had someone on here talking about the video game industry. And so I think that it's something that I'm glad you did. That second half of the conversation, I got to tell you, was really eye-opening for me.
It is the largest entertainment sector. So there are a million different things you can sell into the video game industry to solve its problems. You just have to, you don't have to be a gamer. You have to understand the most important thing to video game companies are players. So if it makes it harder for them to play, instantly out. If it makes it easier for me to do my job, so it makes it easier for them to play, now I'm listening. I heard this amazing fact from the business development director. I'm not sure her actual title. Anna Nikoleva from FRVR. It's a casual games platform. We were just chatting about what games are considered casual these days, like what's really working. They have 1.5 billion players around the world. And we were talking about that kind of stuff. And the thing that she told me that blew my mind is, so in video game, you preload all your data so that once the player gets into the game, there's no lag, there's no waiting time. Remember the load screens in between different parts of the game? Like, that is meant to be no good in video games anymore, except on their platform and in other casual games platforms, because for every amount of load in time, they see 7% churn instantly. So if you're starting your game and it takes 10 seconds to load, immediately 7 to 20% of people, depending on how long that interval was that I cannot remember from Hannah, are immediately stopping. It's too much work. So those are the kind of insider understandings about an industry where if salespeople want to break into an industry or extend their services into an industry, it can't be generic. They've got to contract people like me to teach them about that industry, or, you know, run those teams, or figure out if their product is even useful in the industry. And that's the stuff I like actually helping people do. Is people discount strategy a lot. If I can save you $1 million of wasted effort trying to break into the video game industry when you're trying to sell men's deodorant, you know, like, yeah, you can partner with streamers, you can do all this stuff, but no one cares, you know, and that's a, you know, a broad kind of take on it. But that makes my fee minuscule in retrospect. And being a subject matter expert on the music industry, on the film industry, on TV and games, I've literally, you know, started television networks, run film TV production companies, run studios, have worked on some of the most famous games of all time because I started my career at Nintendo. All that expertise, the things that you and I bring to our clients, like, it's not just the clothes. It is the intel as well.
My man, we're going to put a pin in it right there. That was an excellent closing remark. Erik, I got to hop. Great talking to you as always. I'll see you soon, dude.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Max. Thanks for inviting me back.
And that's a wrap for this episode of Closing Conversation. Huge thanks to Erik Reynolds for coming back for part 2. What stuck with me is that people can tell when something is real. They can tell when the outreach is fake. They can tell when you don't understand their world. They can tell when you're just running a play. And they can tell when there's actually a relationship behind the conversation. For founders, leaders, and sellers, that matters. AI can help, social media can help, automation can help, but none of it replaces knowing the person, knowing the industry, and having the guts to actually say something useful. If you liked this episode, subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who needs to hear that the real connection still wins. And if you're building a sales team that needs stronger coaching, sharper systems, and a more human way to grow, head over to www.commissionsales.com. We'll see you next time. Until then, let's get closing. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget, you can always catch us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts for more episodes of Closing Conversations.